Computer. We will have some time later on for Q&A with Lisa, but as usual, great to see everyone. Happy first day of spring. Um, it gives me hope. And anyway, Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, where you live, and then we're going to jump into a few questions about this wonderful book that you have given writers.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Lisa Mangum. I'm managing editor for Shadow Mountain Publishing here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been in the industry 25 plus years, which still doesn't seem possible, but time marches on. And I've written some novels, some young adult romance novels, the Hourglass Door trilogy and After Hello. And then this new book, Write Fearless, is my first foray into nonfiction. And it's a collection of all the classes and the lessons that I've learned or the classes that I've taught over the years about writing and editing and publishing. And I wanted to create something that I could give to somebody or you could keep in your on your shelf when you need to dive into a particular topic about character building or plot structure or thematic development, or even figuring out where the commas go in your book. And I love fiction. I grew up reading and writing, and so books are my first love and always love. I live just outside of Salt Lake City, down in a town called Lehi, Utah, and I've got my little black cat around here somewhere, Loki, who is my office manager when I am working from home, and so I'm sure he will be here supervising shortly. Make sure this Zoom conversation goes according to his plan, as you know, cats are bossy that way. Um,
You mentioned 25 years. How did you get started in publishing? And as you look back on those early years, what one or two things have changed between then and today, say?
well, lots has changed. I actually got into it. It's sort of a long, winding road of how I got here, but truthfully, I can pin it directly to my mom. My mom, I grew up, she taught me a love of reading and a love of books, and she was also an editor for a national magazine for 30 plus years. And so I grew up knowing that being an editor was a thing people did, was a job you could do. And I loved it. I loved talking to her about editing, the marks and the analysis and how to make suggestions. So I went to college with the intention of becoming an editor. And so right out of college, I applied for and got a job at a local religious publisher in started in October. I graduated in May, started in October as their editorial assistant. And I got that job in part because my mom called me up one day and said, there's going to be an opening at this publishing house. You should keep an eye on their call for applications because we're hiring one of their editors to work for the magazine. So I know they're going to be looking for somebody new. And I'm like, hey, thank you, Mom. You're the best. And so
It
as
is
soon
who you know, isn't
it
it?
is a little bit of who you know. But I also, when I applied, I took their proofreading and editing test at the company, and I did get the highest score they had seen on the test. So it is also who you know, and it's also what you know that matters. Uh,
Yeah.
but then I've been in the business ever since. I've been in charge of the slush pile and doing acquisitions the almost my entire career. I do developmental editing, I do line editing, I do copy editing. I hold all of my authors' hands when they get nervous about maybe my book's not good enough. And I'm like, yes, it is. It'll be fine. Um, and then as managing editor for Shadow Mountain, I am in charge of, keeping tabs on all of the books, making sure that they are sticking to their schedules, that they get where they need to be on time, that they go to press on time. I work very closely with the rest of the editorial team, with marketing, sales, design, to really make sure that our books look great, read great, are perfect for our readers who will buy it and tell all of their friends.
Yeah, and I first stumbled on Shadow Mountain's titles at Denver at the Independent Booksellers event. How has that been for you? This is off script here, Lisa, but How has it been for you coming out of a religious publishing house to develop a general trade line? And I mean, my observation was being well received. Have you found your audience?
Yes. So Shadow Mountain is the national imprint for Deseret Book Company. Deseret Book Company is our parent company, and they are owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You may know them colloquially as the Mormons, but and Deseret Book Company was established in 1866 as a publishing company, so deep roots. But in about the 1980s, Deseret Book decided that they really wanted to have a more national presence, some more national titles that did not have specific religious content, but that were still had clean content that would be good for families to share together, that would be uplifting, that would have stories of compassion, that would be romantic and escapism, that could be historically, dive into those great stories from history, even do some nonfiction memoirs or biographies about famous historical people as a way to really sort of give back to the community and provide product and stories for people who are looking for that kind of content. Um, and so from very humble beginnings in like the 1980s, kind of we bumped along a little bit until 20, it was probably 2000 maybe 2005. Chris Schobinger was appointed to be head of Shadow Mountain specifically for this purpose, for the mission to be develop Shadow Mountain into a national brand, a national imprint that provides this kind of content. And under his leadership, we got into middle grade fantasy. Our most popular and our most famous product is Brandon Mull's Fablehaven. If you don't know that, you probably are not familiar with the rest of our lineup because he's our number one top New York Times bestseller author. He's delightful. But we've done middle grade contemporary, middle grade fantasy. We're moving into the YA space for romantasy, rom-coms, contemporary issue-driven kinds of novels. We do historical fiction. We do a lot of proper romance for historical or we're just sort of moving a little bit into contemporary romance. But again, it's with this idea that everybody deserves to be able to pick up one of our Shadow Mountains books and not have to be worried about bumping into content that they might not be comfortable with, or they could pick up any book and hand it to their teenager and feel confident that they're going to just enjoy the story and have a great time. And so I was really lucky and proud that my books got to be published by Shadow Mountain as well. A little bit about who you know, but also a little bit about what you know. And when Chris asked me to write this book, he's like, you should put a book together that has all of your teaching in it. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I could put a book together like that. He's like, no, you should put a book together like that. And I'm like, oh, yes, I should. And so it was really fun to be able to sit down and really have the mindset of how can this book help people write the kinds of books that they want to write, and then also introduce them to Shadow Mountain in a way that I could also talk to all of these lovely new authors and be like, hey, maybe if you write something Shadow Mountain might like, maybe we should take a look at it as a way to really reach far and wide across a national base of authors. We publish authors from all across the country, not just in Utah, and we sell our books all across the country, not just in Utah. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, it's a great book. Obviously, there's a lot of books on writing, but you can tell as you read the book, one, you reference a lot, you have a lot of references to the resources that are out there. You can tell that you've taught this in a variety of writers' conferences and settings. You also sprinkle stories from Lisa throughout, which are anecdotal and cute. Um, the book is broken into three sections. Why don't you tell us what those three are and the importance of each?
Sure. So the first half of the book is the right fearless part. That's how to take an idea, a story idea all the way from conception to getting it to your final first draft. And so in those chapters, I talk about character development, I talk about plot structure, different ways that you can think about organizing your story and tips for kind of getting you through the beginning to end. I also talk about voice and how important that is to develop your author voice. I talk about writer's block, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the slides I have today. And then we also talk about thematic development. And really, it's a way to provide tools for the author, that so you can sort of pick and choose where you're at in your journey. If you're already a little further down, you're like, yeah, I've got a good handle on my characters, but I need help with this. You can jump to the next section. But I really did try to walk you through every single sort of element. Even on my t-shirt, I don't know if you can see, I have this little formula it's in the book about how to put a plot together, and character and motivation and conflict and theme, to sort of help break it down into smaller steps so that you can focus and concentrate on the part that you kind of really need, that you feel maybe you need a little help with. There's
There's a lot of cute formulas, things like that that are really engaging to the reader. The voice. Talk about the story. You tell the story, or you illustrate it with a pizza party.
Yeah. So uh, my brother, actually, I was telling my brother this because he's writing his first novel right now. And it's been a lot of fun to sort of be his mentor. He calls me up and he's like, I need help. I don't know what to do. And so he was struggling. He was on the ledge, as we say. He was struggling one day and about like, my first draft isn't any good. Like, what if it's no good? And I said, well, it probably isn't any good. It's the first draft. And I said, it's like this. Okay, you've eaten pizza all the time, your whole life, right? You know what pizza tastes like. You know, you have your favorite pizza, you know everything. So you're going to try to make pizza yourself for the first time, but you've never made pizza. So you just do your best. You get the dough and you put the toppings on it, and you kind of shape it, and then you put it in the oven and you bake it. And then when it's all done, you give it to your friend, and your friend says, this cheese isn't melted and the dough is too doughy, and there's too much oregano, and I don't know why there's a Lego brick in the crust, and it hurts because you tried to make pizza and you love pizza and it didn't work. So you can either stop making pizza, or you can go back and try it again, and adjust the recipe for the dough, put different toppings on it, maybe adjust the temperature on your oven, bake it a little longer or maybe a little less until you get that final pizza that everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And because as I told Dennis, he's like, yeah, I guess. I said, and what's better than pizza? And he goes, nothing's better than pizza. I'm like, you're right. So get back to it, write your first draft, maybe put it in the oven again, see how it comes along. And so I sprinkled those sort of story time with Lisa throughout the book to give you examples not only of my own writing journey when I bumped into these same obstacles that writers are bumping into, but also advice that I've learned or advice that I've given to help illustrate that sort of we're all in this together mentality, right? We're all writers. We all have stories. We all want to tell stories and make pizza and share them. And we all bump into the same kinds of problems. And so I thought having a book that could say, yeah, hold my hand, I'll take you on this journey, we'll get through it together, is really the vibe I was going for.
It's so good. And you definitely have that kind of I'm alongside of you. In Get Published section, you speak of four things you've identified that you can't control. Share that with you. Share that with us. I think that was when I read that, I thought that's really helpful because when you send a proposal off to either an agent or the publisher, you think, okay, it's going to land, it's going to be acquired, we'll get that six-figure advance, all is well.
Yeah.
But there's things we can't control.
There are things we can't control, and I hope I remember the four that I listed in the book, but I can at least tell you four because there's lots. One of them is that you can't control what other people are writing, right? You may be writing a historical romance. There's lots of people writing historical romance. And so there are a lot of people also submitting historical romance, maybe at the same time you are. And you can't control that. And so you have to just sort of not worry about what other people are writing, or even to a certain extent, what the trends are in the marketplace, because those are going to come and go, and they may be really fast, they may come and stay. And if you try to say, oh, I have to pivot and I have to write this thing that's popular, or oh no, somebody else is writing, a pirate romance that I am, and I better do something else, like you'll never finish anything. You have to just like stick to your book, believe in your book, and get your book done. You also can't control how many spots a publisher has on any given schedule for any given year. Shadow Mountain, we do about 45 to 50 titles a year across all ages and all genres, which means we only have so many spots, for example, romance. And we have some authors who we have published repeatedly, and they're going to give us another book, and they're going to fill one of those spots. And so it doesn't have anything to do with your writing or your story. It has everything to do with just the math of what our resources are, how many we can publish, how many we can do at any given time. And so you can't really control that either. What were the other ones that you can't control what the market is doing, and that sometimes it's not you, it's us, right? Sometimes it just is expensive to publish a book. And maybe there was a time not too long ago when we all struggled with the price of paper. The price of paper went up. And all of a sudden we looked, and all of our books were more expensive to produce. So we had to not do as many books for a couple years, and that mathematically cut down the number that we could do. Um,
The fourth one that I remember the most, and I'm going to chime in here in case you
yeah,
forgot it, is you don't know the emotions of the acquiring editor that day. And I thought, yeah, yeah.
that's true. And I hate that that's a thing, right? Because um, I would I would like to believe that if I'm having a bad day, that shouldn't factor in to the analysis of your manuscript. But the truth is, it does kind of sometimes do that. But early on in my career, I learned that about myself. I learned that when I was hungry or tired or stressed about something else, that I was like, well, I don't have time. I'm just gonna say no. Like this is no, no. I'm just saying no because I got to get through it. And then I realized that's not fair. That's not fair to you because you put your best work into this manuscript. You really poured your heart and soul into this, and you are giving me your best. So you deserve me at my best to be able to look at your manuscript and to be in that space where I can really give it serious consideration. So when I find myself, oh, I guess I'll just read a couple of manuscripts, but man, I'm really hungry. I'm like, no, go have lunch and then come back. I tend to try to do my manuscript, go in the slush pile, usually Friday mornings. I'm in my best mood Friday mornings because it's Friday and it's almost the weekend and I'm so excited. And I'm like, yeah, here we go. Let's find the book. Now, not every editor, not every agent may have that same mentality. And again, that's why you can't control it. And so I do try to consciously give a little bit of that control back to you in that, because this is your shot. This is your chance to be on my desk, to be in front of me and to say, what do you think? Would we be a good match? Is this something Shadow Mountain would like to publish? Is this something you would like to work on? And the answer sometimes still is no. But again, that may have nothing to do with the quality of your manuscript and have everything to do with timing or math or other factors that even as a publisher are out of our control.
That's good, Lisa. We want to give you opportunity to ask Lisa any questions. If you do, you can either I think you can do on Zoom, put your hand up and it will pop on your screen. Or you can shoot me a chat and I'll keep an eye on this too. Um, so get ready for that. I'm going to ask Lisa one more question here. You're looking at a bunch of authors on the screen today, and you are a very hopeful acquisition editor. You talk about hope. Share your story about paper clips and
Right.
and just give us a word of encouragement for you. You have writers on here that are working on their first book, hoping to get a book deal, others that have been working on their third, fourth, fifth, whatever. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. Paper clips are have become sort of my personal totem, if you will. And that's because, again, it goes back to my mom, who raised me with hope and with words and with books. And we always joked that before we were a family, that God put us together, and we started talking about paper clips and office supplies and about how excited we were about them. And God was like, okay, well, clearly you have to be family because nobody else cares this much about paper clips. And so we always joked about that that's how we knew we were mother-daughter and how we were um, together. And when she passed away in 2018, very unexpectedly, it was really hard. And shortly after that, I was still teaching and doing some conferences, and I started finding paper clips in the strangest of places, in places where there shouldn't have been a paper clip. Um, and in fact, I started collecting them in my little box of paper clips that I have found or that were given to me as gifts because they represent my mom watching out for me, still holding me close, still connecting me and connecting us together. And so I really believe that writing is so much about hope. It's the hope that you have something worth sharing because you do have something worth sharing, and the hope that it's going to find that right audience and it's going to make that difference in somebody's life. We all have books that we've read that have touched us, that we hold close to our hearts, that characters that have changed us, or lines that an author has written that we've woven into our beliefs and into our values. And we hope to be that for somebody else. And I think that is such a powerful emotion to have as a writer and as a reader and as a storyteller. I have seen that more times than I can count. Authors who have, I can tell, have poured their heart and their into their manuscripts, and that's usually, truthfully, the thing that elevates a manuscript out of the slush pile. I can't always define it. I can't always put my finger on it, but I can feel it when I read it. And I know that this author is somebody who cares about story and cares about the power that comes with the story and is wielding it with grace and with intention and with a purpose. And those are the kinds of authors and those are the kinds of stories that I think matter the most. And that can be any genre, that can be for any audience, that can be any length. Um, you have a story inside of you that is something only you can tell. And your voice and the way you say it and the way you write it is what makes your story different and unique and valuable. And your creativity that you have is what makes you valuable and unique. And so I've seen that um, in my own writing, I've seen it in other people's writing, and I think about that every time I see a paperclip, either in my office or out in the wild, or when somebody gives me one as a gift to just kind of as a reminder to say, hey, thanks for what you're doing. I see you. I read your book. I know this is important to you. And it reminds me of my mom, and it reminds me of why I got into this business and why I love stories so much, and why part of my job is to help you tell the stories you want to tell.
That's great. That's great. Dave Moja, you have a question coming in to us from somewhere in Georgia.
Hey, thanks, Don. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for being on here and taking the time. This is
Sure.
fantastic. When Don published that you were going to be on here today, I looked up the book and I went, oh no, another book on how to write. And that, but it's great. It's great. You
Yeah.
really hooked me with the story time with Lisa stuff. And I actually sent the link to an author friend and he's enjoying it.
Good.
Um, One thing that really got me going though was in the edit section, you talk about wear the right glasses.
Yeah.
And when you're rereading your book, and I just was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that for everybody and just go through that. That really resonated with me.
Yeah, and we kind of skipped over the what's in the Get Smart and the Edit Smart and the Get Published sections. But in the Edit Smart, I talk about things that you could do to self-edit when you're doing revisions. And one of the things is to wear the right glasses when you are doing your passes. So one pair of glasses are like your rose-colored glasses. When you read your manuscript through one more time and you mark everything that you love, mark all of your favorites, mark all of your darlings, mark the things that you're like, oh, I just love how this works. Because those are things that are most likely not broken, that probably you don't need to fix. And those are the things that come from your heart that you want to help preserve. You don't want to accidentally edit those out. Then I also and so I sort of do a pass with my rose-colored glasses on. And then I do a pass with like my blackout sunglasses, like things that I'm going to ignore. And at that stage, I'm usually ignoring, especially, and these are the same glasses I wear when I do manuscript developmental editing with an author. I'll mark everything I love, and at usually that first read, I will ignore the copy editing errors. Like I will ignore if there's missing words or if the commas, it should be a comma instead of a period, or if there's a misspelling, those kinds of things. I'm like, we'll fix those later. I'm not going to get bogged down in that now, because I want to look at what's up above. I want to see the 30,000-foot view. Then I look at, I sort of put on another pair of glasses with what are the things that need to be fixed? Where are things that are broken that actually need to be fixed? Where a character is introduced and then suddenly falls apart, where there's suddenly a character who is holding two things and then picks up a third. I'm like, well, now do they have three arms or should they put something down? I look for plot holes. I look for unbelievable motivation. I look for parts that are boring or lapses in logic. Those kinds of things, again, because those need to be fixed before you submit it anywhere. And then the last pair of glasses are things to strengthen, like your welding goggles. You put those on because those are, again, things that they're not wrong. But maybe they're not something that you love, but they don't really need to be fixed, but they can be strengthened. And that may be your dialogue. That may be your description. That may be your thematic development. That may be tightening up your pacing. That you have them and they're solid and they're serviceable, but man, with a little bit of effort, you could really elevate them into something great. So those are kind of the four glasses that I kind of swap out and look at and wear when I'm reading a manuscript. And those are the same glasses that you can wear as you are preparing a manuscript for submission. Things to love, things to ignore for now, things to fix, and things to strengthen.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
And thanks for telling a friend about my book.
Susan Fish, go ahead with your question. Susan? Okay, Rachel, we're going to go to you and we'll come back to Susan.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much, Lisa, for being here. You're a true inspiration, and it's so fun to hear your stories. And congrats on your book. I just added it to my Amazon cart because
Excellent.
I'm working on my fiction novel, and right now it tastes like pizza with bricks in the crust. So I need some help. And you sort of just answered my question. But it's so fascinating to hear someone talk about having all these manuscripts, reading through them, and then the magic that you see in something that takes it from the slush pile out. And you sort of just said that you see that you can tell someone has put their heart into their manuscript. Is there anything else? What separates, what is something that you're like, oh yeah, this one, but not this one?
Yeah, great question. And it's something I struggle with because I have so many manuscripts to go through. But really, I sort of look at it with two things. I look with my heart and I look with my head. And so my heart is me as a reader. What is Lisa the reader? What is this the kind of story that I would, if I was browsing at a bookstore, want to pick up? Is this something that I would want to tell a friend about? Is this when I read part of it where I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, you would never believe what just came in. And that's part of the equation as well, is just how am I emotionally reacting to it? The other part, when I have to look at it with my head, is essentially what's the marketing hook? What is it that makes this book different? How can I talk about this book to sales and marketing and get them excited about it? Because they may not care as much about the emotional component of it at this point, because their job is to say, how can I sell 15,000 copies of this book? How, and what do I say about it? So I've seen query letters come in that say my book is different because it has a compelling plot and realistic characters and good dialogue. And I'm like, sweet summer child, that is the bare minimum I am asking for a book. Everybody should have that. That's not what sets your book apart. I need to know, is it a twist on something? Is it a retelling of something? Do you have a particular background or expertise in this kind of story or in this kind of setting? Or do you have lots of other books under your belt? Like, what is it that if I only have 2 seconds to explain to my marketing director and our sales director why this book, that I can say it's this. I share a story in the book about my friend Rebecca Connolly, and her book that we first published with her was about the Carpathia, which, as a bona fide Titanic nerd, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, it's the Carpathia. Because and in her query letter, she says, lots of books have been written about the Titanic, but as far as I know, nothing has been written about the one ship that came to the rescue. The Carpathia came to save the survivors of the Titanic sinking. And as near as she could tell, there was no novel written about that part of the story. That's the marketing hook. That's the thing that makes it different. The only one of its kind. And that, in my head, that's what I looked for. Luckily, my heart was like, oh my gosh, the writing is so good and it's so descriptive and the characters are amazing. And so that became the perfect combination.
Thank you. That's a great answer. Thanks so much.
That is great. And if I ever write a novel, I'm going to use that phrase, sweet summer child.
That's a Game of Thrones reference.
Yeah. So sorry, I haven't. Anyway, we will. Rachel, it is great to see you. Rachel is joining us after her battle with cancer, and it is so good to see her with her great hairdo and big smile. It's awesome. It's awesome. Love you, friend. Okay, we have a question from Susan Fish, which is, I have it here. Lisa, what's your wish list right now?
Oh, my wish list for Shadow Mountain. I'm always looking for historical fiction, preferably based on a true story or inspired by historical events. Because again, that's a good marketing hook. Like, it's based on a true story kind of thing. That is not a requirement. It doesn't have to be that way. That's just like bonus points if you've got that. So I do love historical fiction. I'm also looking for middle grade fantasy. We've got a couple fantasy series that are coming to a close. So I'm scouting around looking for like what's the next sort of fantasy series or standalone that we can put on the list. And then I'm also looking for YA. I'm still casting the net far and wide for books for young adult, but particularly young adult that has a strong romantic element, whether that's contemporary romance, rom-com romance, or romantasy, a fantasy world that has a strong romantic element. Those seem to be doing quite well for us, and where we kind of want to continue to broaden that space.
That's very helpful. The book is called Write Fearless, Edit Smart, Get Published. It's great. It is, as you say, Lisa, it's really you coming alongside of a writer and saying, hey, let me be your Sherpa on this journey. and I've got some stories that I will pepper throughout. And just want to say thank you so much for joining us today and being our guest. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having me. Thank you so much. And I hope to see some of your stories and all of the people here in the Zoom chat.
There
So
we go.
fellowship
We're
and
gonna let
support.
we're gonna let Lisa exit and wish her all the best in acquiring. And thank you again. Um, as you know, one of you will be getting one of her book sent to you. I'll be making that selection, or AI, or however we do it on here. Will set you next month. We have a real treat. We have the author Seth Godin. That's going to be joining us. He's written the most recent book is This is Strategy, Make Better Plans. And he's if you've never heard him, he's a bit of a hoot, as we say in Canada. Um, I hope you will join us on that for that one. I will be making an offer to you in next week about this book, so be on the lookout for that email. Some of you will be able to get a copy for free. So more on that coming your way. I want to thank you for joining today. I always like to keep it to 45 minutes, and I'm looking at the clock, and it looks like we're right on target. So it's awesome. Thank you again for joining. I hope you all have the rest of your day a good one. Happy spring, Andy Ashworth. I hope you're planting some flowers. Good. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye now.
Bye. That's it.